May I call down Lyle Buffalo and Mike Shawnee, please? My name is Peter Thiel. I'm with News Talk KZRG. It's an honor for me to be here for this candidate forum this evening, where we're going to be meeting 6 candidates who want your support in the Quapaw Nation. Here is the basic thing, the basic format. We open up with a 5-minute opening statement from each candidate. I'm going to ask 4 questions. Each candidate will be allotted 3 minutes to answer each question, and then a 5-minute closing. And this is for the position of member, and we have 2 good guys, Lloyd Buffalo and Mike Shawnee. A round of applause. And again, thank you guys for running and your support. It's because your name is closer to the top of the alphabet. Mr. Buffalo, you will get the opening 5 minutes.
Thank you. I probably won't take all that time. I don't speak much, but I'm Lloyd Buffalo, seeking re-election as a member of the Quapaw Business Committee. My wife and I have been married 47 years this December. Between us, we have 7 children, 13 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren. I had 8 siblings and 3 step-siblings, 4 of which are still alive today. I'm proud to say that I'm one of the few half-degree Quapaws still living. My father, Arthur Buffalo, was a full-blood Quapaw. He was the next to the last full-blood male member to walk on. And I'm excited to be here. I've served on this committee since, off and on since 1970. Other than that, I've been employed by the Quapaw Nation during that time, so this July ends 52 years. And the only reason I'm running this year, I wish to continue some of the items that have been started this year and make a whole lot of them a big success. I graduated from Glen High School in 1961 as valedictorian with 12 years perfect attendance, continued my education to college and received a degree in industrial education. My first job was a setup and lead man for a major manufacturing company in Joplin, Missouri. Supervised 35 men and women to make furniture, fixtures for department stores such as Walmart's, JCPenney's, Sears. In 1970, I was elected as a member of the committee. And 2 years later, I was elected vice chairman, and also elected as first business manager of the Quapaw Nation, known as the Quapaw tribe at that time. I had the opportunity to draft all of the first programs for the Indian nations of this community, many of which are still in operation today. My experience is as business manager of the Quapaw Nation. I also served as compliance officer for the Wyandotte and Ottawa tribes. I did program reviews for the Seneca tribe. I wrote the original constitution for the Modoc tribe of Oklahoma, which was approved by secretarial election. I served as general manager of the Quapaw High Stakes Bingo, sat on that board for several years. I've also, I could go past the 5 minutes, I'm trying to shorten it up. I also served on the board of the Miami Indian Health Clinic for 15 years, 9 years as president. I also helped establish the first Indian Health Service clinic in Miami, Oklahoma by supplying the plans. The Quapaw Nation at that time did not want to undertake it. And with a new clinic, I showed all the tribes how to combine their CDBG grants to fund the clinic. Like I said, I could go on and on. I've got a lot of experience. I'm proud of what I've accomplished, and I would like to see the Quapaw Nation go forward from here. I told you I wouldn't take 5, I'll shorten it up.
Very good. Mike Shawnee, please speak.
Good evening. My name is Mike Shawnee. I live in Owasso, actually, with my wife, Melanie. We've been married almost 30 years, close to it, 29. So my experience with the tribal government is definitely nothing like Lloyd's, but I work with the federal government every day for the last 11 years now, so, and my background in business is usually with revenue management. Managed several entities of one company that had over $10 million in perishable property, I guess you could say. So revenue management is one's game, and that's what we do for a living. So now I work for a Fortune 500 company with their government contracting area, and I do quite well with the government. So every day is different contract, all branches of the government, White House down to the Forest Service. So, but that's my experience is all just in business. So nothing in tribal government. So that's what I've got to say. That's good enough for me.
Well, we're going to stay with you, Mike, because who's first is now last, who's last is now first. Yeah, you know what I'm about to say. What are the needs of the Quapaw Nation? How do you suggest the nation do? What do you suggest the nation do to meet those needs?
Just looking from the outside, we need to diversify business. We need to make them all profitable, whatever we're vying with it now, with the greenhouses, whatever you want to call it, the QSA. Even the casinos could probably do better. But the biggest concern I have is the processing plant. There's more that can be done there. We could actually go after government contracts because the government's always looking for meat. They take bids on meat for the prison systems, for the military, just all branches of the government. So I think that would be a very big step into making that a whole profitable process. So that's my biggest concern there. That could make the tribe a lot of money. So, but we gotta work up to it. We gotta get everything going, keep it from breaking down, because I hear it breaks down all the time. They're constantly doing maintenance on it. So, but right now, that's the biggest concern I see.
The same question for you, Lloyd Buffalo. What are the needs of the Quapaw Nation, and what do you suggest the nation do to meet those needs?
I believe the needs of the Quapaw Nation are housing for the elderly and housing for the homeless. I believe we need assistance with mental problems, drug addiction, and overall just to help the members of the nation who are needy. Sometimes, you know, people on government forget about their citizens, and then you got to basically govern from your heart, not from your purse, so to speak. And I think the only way you can do that is to approach those problems and solve those problems. That's why I'm still running, because I want to see those problems solved, because many of them are currently under discussion. And that's how I believe that we can help the nation survive and help all its members. That's all.
We'll stay with you, Lloyd Buffalo. It's the McGirt decision. And how do you propose to preserve tribal sovereignty, and how will you meet the new obligations granted to the tribe by that decision?
Well, that's two different questions, and you need to understand that the McGirt decision just covers a Major Crimes Act this time. It didn't go into tribal sovereignty. If we want tribal sovereignty, we're going to have to go to court and fight for those rights. I believe that's the only way we can maintain those rights and recover those rights. But a lot of people are under the misconception McGirt covers everything. McGirt doesn't cover everything. So that would be my simple answer.
Mr. Shawnee, how would you go to preserve sovereignty based on the McGirt decision?
Well, I agree with Lloyd on that fact that it doesn't cover everything. You can only prod the bear so much. All that takes is just one act of Congress to actually remove all your sovereignty. Everybody relies on treaties. Treaties can be broken. May not be legal, but who's going to stop them? It's all on their side. So, yeah, we definitely got to take careful consideration and pick and choose the fight. So that would be the best course of action for us right now. Like I said, the McGirt decision only covered 5 civilized tribes. The states want to recognize the Quapaw Nation as they're maintaining a reservation. So until that happens with the feds, even though there was no language put into the treaties that disestablished anything, I think we still need to work on it to get the feds to actually agree with us in the state of Oklahoma on the jurisdiction issues with the Quapaw Nation. So.
Mike Shawnee, we will stay with you on this question. Can you define your conflict resolution skills?
It all boils down to what you mean by define. I handle conflict every day with the government. Like I said, my position is really sensitive. I could go to federal prison if I do something wrong. So I'm always constantly under the federal process. So conflict resolution, you know, if we promise something, we have to deliver. Hopefully, we don't overpromise and we can't deliver. So, you know, I'm the type of person, if you bring me something that's conflicting or a problem, bring me a solution as well. We'll talk it over. You know, we got to play 50-50 on this, and I might see something different than what they may see. So that's probably the best way to define it.
Lloyd Buffalo, please give us your conflict resolution.
I think it depends on what the conflict is. You can approach it 2 different ways. First, you approach it through conversation with the individual. And we have to take into consideration, is it an employee or is it a tribal member? You can't treat both the same. If it's a tribal employee, there's a procedure to go through. You talk about it with them and you refer them to the procedures that's handled by HR, and they need to go through that procedure. And hopefully, through discussion, you can resolve the conflict if it's just with an individual member. Sometimes they may not like what you tell them, and they hear what they want to, and then they interpret it another way. but you feel good in your heart when you tell them what you can, and you know it's a truth, whether they want to believe you or not. And if they disagree, encourage them to go on to the committee. That'd be my solution.
All right, let's see. Have we done our 3 questions? Or now we have 4. Here's the last one. Now that Downstream is on the path to being debt-free, how would you manage to stay on that road? Lloyd, we'll start with you.
Well, I think that to manage to stay on that road, the nation needs to elect proper government people who have ethics, compassion for the people, and the will to follow through on what's already established. That's one of the problems we have as a nation with a 2-year term. You need to establish continuity. And with that continuity, all these things can follow through and be accomplished.
Mike Shawnee?
It's not only that you need continuity, you also need to look forward. More forward thinking as times change. You got to change with the times. So that'd probably be the best way to describe what we need to do, you know, as Downstream decreases debt. We may even need to remodel, you know, keep up with the times. We got to move forward. We can't stand still. We got to keep moving forward. Can't look back either. We got to move forward. That's just life. So that would be the best thing I would be able to say, just looking at it from this point of view right now.
Well, Mike Shawnee, we're going to start. Since we allowed Lloyd to go first with the opening statement, you, sir, get to go first with the closing statement. You have 5 minutes.
I'm like Lloyd. I'm not going to use 5 minutes. Matter of fact, well, you know, like I said, I think Lloyd's done a great job while he's been in office. But I think, you know, it could be time for some change, but that's up to the voters. I mean, I'd relish the chance to serve, and we can move on from there. Actually, I think my qualifications speak well enough in my business side. So, and like I said, I hold a very sensitive job here. Have to go through security clearance every year, so I think I'm qualified to do this job. Just take it one day at a time is all I can do. Like I said, right now, Lloyd's got all the inside information. I'm in the outside looking in, so. But that's basically all I have to say on this, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike Shawnee. Lloyd Buffalo.
Well, I would like to say that I think we have a distinguished group of candidates for all 3 positions. I think that the nation needs to look at the candidates, elect those who have compassion, ethics, and caring for the people. I think a lot has been accomplished in the last year that a lot of people don't know about, and some things you can't talk about due to confidentiality. But I see great things for the future, no matter who's elected for these positions. Thank you.
Round of applause for these 2 fine gentlemen. Thank you very much, and thank you for wanting to serve and to serve the tribe and the government. Thank you very much. Next up, we have the Secretary-Treasurer race. We have Guy Barker and Weena Supernow. So come on up, and we'll get rolling. And again, thank you for watching online, and thank you for attending in person. And it's a treat to be able to meet these candidates and the decision that you will have to make. Hopefully this will help you define your vote. And again, these are all very nice people. Now, last time I started this, I did alphabetical order. Well, I'm blowing that up because we're going to start with the lady first, as we should. We have two great candidates, Guy Barker, Weena Super now. Weena, please give us your opening statement. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Weena Supernaw. I'm a candidate for the Business Committee Secretary Treasurer position, July 23rd. I'm a direct descendant of Junior Supernaw, Ik Supernaw, Grandma Supernaw, Kahika Steta, Tall Chief, Kahika Teta, Wazidani, Wapatasa, Kahika Tanika, and Kahika Tampata. The last 7 were hereditary chiefs of the Quapaw tribe. My Quapaw name is Menaji, given to me by Grandma Supernaw, and I belong to the Snake Clan. I graduated from George Mason University with a Bachelor of Science in Accounting. I retired as a vice president for MetLife after 30 years of service with them. I have experience and expertise in investments, project management, operational accounting, reporting, technology, process reengineering, contract negotiations, change management, and communications. I've led both large U.S. teams as well as global ones. I have nonprofit board of director experience as well as executive experience on the board. I'd like to apply this experience for the benefit of the Quapaw people with my full-time attention. In the last few years, I've become increasingly involved with tribal activities. I've attended multiple powwows, general council meetings. I was a candidate in last year's election. Unfortunately, I didn't win. Monthly BC meeting attendance, active open forum participation, consistently distributed BC meeting summaries to hundreds of Quapaws. I was also an active team member in launching the Bear Proceed Distribution Equity Petition that resulted in Resolution 918-21A and promoted updated language for the Bear Authorization Bill, H.R. 4715. Joined the Constitution Committee in December of 2021 with active participation since then. Hopefully, I've been able to make a good contribution there and completed a catalog of all BC resolutions. Ganage.
And Guy Barker, the same opening statement. You have 5 minutes.
Away, Hagite. My name is Guy Barker. I am your current Secretary Treasurer and have been for the last couple of years. I am the son of Martha Moore Barker and the grandson of Ardina Moore and the great-great-grandson of Victor Griffin, the last chief of the Quapaw tribe. The last 2 years I've been extremely proud of some of the progress we've been able to accomplish here. And from day one, being able to prioritize the financial independence and financial security of our tribal nation and its enterprises, it's really been a huge thing for us and transformative, really, to see where we came from and where we're set to go into the future. Whenever I took office, every business except for our gaming enterprises was operating at a net loss. We've been able to transform these into a profitable model now. Our gaming enterprises themselves, while profitable, were wildly underperforming, and we're now in a position where we're even receiving national recognition due to the changes we've been able to implement here. In addition, we've been able to refinance these properties themselves where over the last 15 years we had never paid a dime in principal, and we'd paid over $800 million in interest on a $300 million note. Now, within the last 6 months, we've been able to pay down over $100 million in debt, and we've put ourselves on a path to debt-free operations here within a couple of years. I have vehemently been a presence on the Hill, made myself an absolute ally to delegates, both Oklahoma and Arkansas, and other members of Congress in order to help advocate on behalf of the Bear settlement for all of our tribal members, and then, as well, being able to secure a future financially through the better management of our businesses, with the enhancement of a better team. We're able to look at what could be unbelievable financial transformation in order to benefit our tribal members in the future, whether this be a result of housing, education dollars, scholarship dollars, and also being a massive community partner, whether it be through local schools, infrastructure, roads, bridges. This is something that has been an unbelievable honor for me to serve as something that I think that for the last 2 years we have spent almost all of our time cleaning a house, and now we're poised to be in a great position to decorate it. This is something I'd love to do. I think we've been on the right track. We're really well poised to keep going into the future. And I've loved all of the support and trust that I've received from our tribal members. And if you've loved some of the progress we've been able to make in such a short amount of time, I would just humbly ask you for your reelection and your vote so that we can kind of continue this pathway of success moving forward. So thank you very much. Ganigay.
Terrific. All right, we're going to start off with you, Guy Barker. Transparency, obviously, as the Secretary-Treasurer, the big concern is transparency. It seems to be a hot topic for tribal members. However, these are also issues of confidentiality, protecting the nation's best interest. How do you propose to maintain transparency while supporting confidentiality?
Well, I think you need to make the podium taller. We'll see if I can get this. Is this better? Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. I think exactly what we're doing here should be a visible and physical representation of our commitment to transparency. When we took office, many of our meetings had never been able to be accessed by members in a live fashion across the country. You either had to be in physical attendance, but we also never had opportunities like this as a candidate or on a stage where our government was committed to making sure that we had visibility for tribal members all across the country. From the very first meeting, once we took office, we began simulcasting meetings all across the country in order to provide the opportunity for tribal members' participation. This is via Zoom primarily, but it gives them the ability to interact virtually rather than having to be there physically. Myself, it's been a mandate for myself and our team to be able to make financial records available to tribal members. We've created what I would call the shareholders report for all of our enterprises so that every tribal member can have visibility of their performance. This is something that we implemented within the first year, something I'm happy and very proud to have included in our handbill and packet for General Counsel this year. It's something that we're readily committed to moving forward in the future. Now, of course, this is a government. We have thousands of employees all across, several states, and we do, of course, have sensitive information that needs to be managed. This just requires people to be sensitive in a position of authority, being able to understand, what kind of line they need to be able to toe in order to protect people's individual privacy, but also being able to maintain a good, honest form of government. So this has always been a huge mandate for myself, and it will continue to be so until the day I leave this office. Thank you.
Weena Super now. Again, the question is transparency, hot topic for many tribal members. However, there are also issues of confidentiality, protecting the nation's best interest. How do you propose to maintain transparency while also supporting confidentiality? 3 minutes.
I think this particular question came up in the candidate forum last year, and my response is going to be incredibly similar and quite brief, and that is, the whole idea is to communicate what can be communicated at every step of the process. There are clearly situations where confidentiality, proprietary information cannot be shared. However, anytime that there is a project, a proposal, an activity that's underway, go ahead and share that progress without breaching confidentiality. I think that there are a whole multitude of occasions where I know I would have liked to have seen, as a tribal member, greater understanding of things, works in progress, not necessarily finding out the final answer after the answer was already decided upon and voted upon and enacted. I would have liked to have understood more about what's happening along the way. Again, remaining respectful of confidential information, but I think there are ways to share more information as activities unfold over time, just to keep everyone aware of where we're heading. Thank you.
We're going to stick with you, Weena Super, now. Let's talk about term limits. If you believe term limits should be imposed, what should those limits be? Why or why not?
That's a good question. I've had that conversation with a multitude of Quapaw people, and to be honest with you, not everybody is in complete alignment. If I'm thinking back to the survey that was done last summer, it's pretty well split, 50-50, maybe not quite, but there are a lot of different views on it. What I will do is share what my thoughts are, and that is we need term limits where after serving 2 terms, the individual needs to sit out a term before they can run again. And I understand that causes disruption in government, but I think that downside is not nearly as great as the upside when you're bringing in new, objective, and fresh ideas to the table. The one thing I will say is that since we don't have term limits today, any notion of making that change has to be voted on by General Counsel, because that would be really an amendment to our governing resolution and the election ordinance. So in essence, I have a view. My view is equivalent to any other tribal member. But what we need to do is, if we want to be serious about it, and I think we will be, we need to vote on it, and then the will of the Quapaw people can be carried out.
All right, Guy Barker, it's the same question.
So like the rest of our people, I'm understandably conflicted on this issue. I believe that we do need a forum of continuity within leadership for the tribe itself. I have a number of issues, whether it be with the length of our term or the number of terms that we have or don't have. Of course, this is a large constitutional question that we're going to have to handle as a general council together moving forward in the future. I think right now we do have a forum of term limits, that is an election process. We have individuals that have been able to gain the trust and support of individuals within our tribe to be able to handle business for them. Of course, moving forward in the future, if those individuals don't meet the qualifications or meet the standards that they have set for themselves within this office, hopefully our people become engaged in order to be able to find new leadership that'll be able to put our tribe and its interests and our people first. Now moving forward, if this is something that we are able to include within our Constitution, I think that it'd be something that we need to take a serious look at. I personally do not look at this as a lifetime appointment, would not like to be here forever. I'm here truly as a personal call to action and service for our people to give back to a community that's given so much to me. But moving forward in the future, the number of terms that we could cap that at is very difficult. Even just for context, the last 2 years in one single term, depending upon what it is you inherit in your office, you could spend that entire time cleaning up a mess from a couple decades of management and mismanagement prior. So in terms of a number of terms and be able to make an effectual change, I think that it would take probably more than 2 if we're still on a 2-year cycle. But this is ultimately going to be a very good and very important discussion that we have as a group of people together.
Okay, I'm going to throw out a curveball here. Yes or no? Are the terms too short? Should they be lengthened?
Yes, they should be lengthened.
Weena?
I would agree. I would agree.
All right.
And we've had that conversation. I think a number of us have had that conversation around the ability to actually enact what you would like to get accomplished based on input from Quapaw people in 2 years. It's hard to get up to speed. One of the other business committee members has spoken quite eloquently on the topic about the necessity to really increase those terms in order to accomplish those goals.
Now let's go, this question I'm going to be asking of everybody. Now that Downstream's on the path to being debt-free, how do you manage to keep it on that road? Let's see, Guy Barker, you get to start this time.
So
3 minutes.
This has, of course, been a priority of mine since day one. There are, of course, flashier and more attractive goals that we could have gone out and chased down once we took office, but the single most important thing we could do was refinancing this property as well as our larger resort property in Arkansas. Through the process of a very difficult year and very difficult conversations and negotiations with some of the largest lending institutions in the country, we were able to produce some of the most transformative transactions in Indian country in history. We've been able to put ourselves on the right path to be able to pay some of this debt down. And like I said, we've managed to at least pay down over $100 million in debt in the last 6 months since closing these facilities, something that has never been contemplated the 15 years prior. Now, of course, I'm biased, but I built these transactions. I built this machine. I think that it's very important that for the stability of this strategy to move forward into the future, for us to get to a place of true financial independence and stability, we're going to have continuity. We're going to have the same people that help design this plan be able to be there to help implement it into the future. Thank you.
Weena Super now, 3 minutes to answer the same question.
There are two primary risks I see to remaining on the path to completely paying off the debt. The first of which has to do with interest rates. We all are aware that interest rates are rising. We're also aware that in most cases, I don't know the underlying nature of the deals, but most bank syndication loans float with whatever the current interest rates are based on some sort of a benchmark. The second risk has to do with cash flow from the properties in order to pay down the debt. So how do we manage both of those risks? On the interest rate side, and this has, and Guy, you've discussed this in the past, and it's a very natural way to do that, and that is the faster you pay off the debt, the less you have to worry about the interest rate, right? You've got less that you have to pay on. The second option in this environment, it might be too costly a transaction, but to basically put an interest rate swap on it so that you're taking something that's floating rate and basically translate it into fixed, and if you pay somebody to take that risk, you can enter into that kind of a financial transaction. That's not a natural hedge, that's an actual hedge transaction. The second risk that I identified was really on the cash flows. How do you ensure that those properties continue generating the cash flow necessary to pay down the principal, which is what gets us, to the home run as quickly as possible, and that is to really cultivate and protect that gaming revenue. And some things have already been happening that I think this administration has done a good job with, and that is exploiting mobile sports gambling. Obviously, that started in Arkansas, and being able to capitalize on those opportunities if the laws get changed in the state of Oklahoma could really go a long way to help us ensure that we've got sufficient cash flow coming from both of those properties to become debt-free the way that it has been designed to be done.
Okay, this is an important thing, I think, for anyone, and especially in this position that you're running for. And Weena Super, now you're going to get 3 minutes to start off here. What do you believe the needs are of the Quapaw Nation? What do you suggest the nation do to meet those needs?
Yeah, this first one is, and I may need to get the hook on this one. So the first one is really, I believe that we need a 10-year strategic plan, and I understand the conversation we just had about term limits and the length of terms and stuff, but I'm thinking beyond an election cycle and thinking about the future and the growth and the wellness of the nation over a longer period of time. That strategic plan helps us to define our priorities and our direction as a nation, balancing all of those competing needs. The key point on that is that plan cannot be something that the business committee decides unilaterally. It has to be through a lot of input from the Quapaw people in order to ensure that that plan reflects our true priorities together. And those priorities could be all the way from land management, elder care, housing, medical, business growth, all of those kinds of things. How much do we want to invest in our courts, our food sovereignty? The sky's the limit. But of all those things that we believe need to be a part of that strategic plan, that's how we have to go about prioritizing, and that becomes the primary driver for how we budget and how we invest in our future. The next need I see is for improved communications. Very simple changes that we can make around open monthly Q&A sessions, building a communication channel on the tribal website, giving tribal members an opportunity to pose questions, receive responses, and then those responses are recorded so that other tribal members can see those. We've seen a number of times one-on-one conversations are very helpful, but how best to get that information out to other tribal members that have the same concern. And then the last one on communication is really, we've got to be able to, in our Ask the BC on the tribal page, be able to see those items and the responses, because really questions posed in open forum during the monthly BC meetings is just simply not sufficient to really get all of the critical information out there and to get responses on those as well. The next need I see is really basic government reform. I already said I'm part of the Constitution Committee, but the whole goal of that is to ensure a balance of power. I personally support the 18 amendments the Constitution Committee is proposing, and hopefully Special General Counsel will get called so that we all have an opportunity to vote on those. So I did want to take a moment to briefly explain some of those changes. Not all 18 of them, I promise. One of them is to basically get the DOI and the BIA out of any kind of approval capacity as currently referenced in our governing resolution. Another category is to strengthen the the grievance committee.
And Weena, you have taken up your time.
Thank you.
You betcha. Guy Barker, the same question.
We have a number of needs, some of which are historical and some evolve on a daily basis. Of course, the non-tangible or non-financial would be government reform, the need for a new constitution, and increasing a safe and healthy work environment for employees. But unfortunately, and this is why it's very important for this position as a treasurer and a financial officer, is that the vast majority of our needs are affected by money. Whether this is tribal housing, language programs, websites, outreach, and the ability to touch and effectuate our communities as well. It all begins and ends with the purse strings. So for me itself is that while money doesn't solve every problem, money certainly aids with solving some of the issues that we have on a daily basis. They're providing for the opportunities and welfare for our individuals, our children, our elders moving into the future. So this is something that we need to be ever more vigilant on. This is something why we need good, competent, qualified, experienced leadership in a position to manage our enterprises, manage our finances so that we can create this sort of stability moving on in the future. This is why I've been extraordinarily humbled with a great team, great support behind me to be able to go up to NAFOA this year, Native American Finance Officers Association, to be recognized as the Treasurer of the Year amongst all 573 federally recognized tribes in the United States. I think that we've come in and we have really made a name for ourselves. We've done a very good job of being able to transform the way we look at tribal finances, the way that we look at tribal economic stability in the future. We're certainly young and kind of with new energetic ideas on how to get this accomplished, but it's something that I'd love to be able to continue on into the future. Thank you.
All right, now we've done our 4 questions. So now it's closing, your closing speech. And we start with Guy Barker. You have 5 minutes.
So I'm happy to be here tonight and pleased to see the turnout that we did get. And for anybody that is, of course, watching online, for me, tomorrow is a very big day, not just for myself, for this tribe, for Indian country. It's not always that we have a tribal leader that is running for U.S. Congress, and I certainly have my team that tried to pull my hair or tell me that I was crazy for being here the night before an election, saying that I needed to be on the campaign trail. But I wanted to make it abundantly clear to them and to all of you as well. This is important to me. My presence here is important to me. My people are important to me. I care about what I do here. I care about how I help our people and our elders and our children. We talk about this, and I made this statement when we were in Seattle at NAFOA that we need to be better ancestors than we are descendants. And this is something that I hope that I can do within kind of my small presence here and my time on council, so that I can leave something better than how I found it, that I can leave unbelievable opportunities for those to come and that will take up these reins in the future. This is something that I care very much about. Like many of you, I've had family that have lived on this reservation continually since 1833. My family has always been a presence here. My namesake moved here on horseback to work in the tri-state lead mines until he died of silicosis. He was poor and lived in a house with a dirt floor, but we've always had a presence here. You know, we as tribal people are entrusted with unbelievable responsibilities in a position of leadership, whether this is culture, our ways, or again, with the land that we've been entrusted with, and seeing what has happened in our backyard, particularly with Pitcher and what is now the largest Superfund site in the country, and the way that it has affected this community and affected our people. Even seeing how it's affected my family, whether it's my grandmother, my uncle, my father, all of which have contracted cancer as a result of living within this mining area as well. I even have the chromosomal marker on it. We'll have to watch it in the future as being exposed to it from an environmental standpoint. So to say that I care very much about this community, I care very much about our people, I care very much about what happens in our backyard would probably be an understatement. But I'm very committed to our people, very committed to our future. I'm very committed to being able to provide as much benefit and help our people as much as I can moving forward in the future. Providing opportunities, whether they be economic, occupational, and as well as cultural, so that we can help preserve what it is that makes us special, that makes us who we are as Quapaw people, and making sure that that is always on the forefront of our mind in a position of leadership. So this is what I'd love to be able to continue. I feel like we've done an unbelievable job so far being able to carry that torch. I'd love to keep doing it, and I just humbly ask for your vote and your continued support and trust moving forward in the future with our election here in July on the 23rd. So thank you very much. Gani Gay, have a good evening.
Weena Super now, your closing statement. You have 5 minutes.
I believe all Quapaws deserve to be treated equally. I believe all enrolled Quapaws as of 9/27/19, still living at the time of distribution, deserve a full and equal distribution of the Bear Settlement. I believe all Quapaws deserve respectful and honest treatment by their government. I believe all Quapaws deserve a voice in material decisions by their government. Where do you guys think we need to be as a nation? I'm ready to listen to you and to serve the Quapaw Nation by applying everything I've learned to the best of my ability. I humbly request your consideration while voting. I would like to thank the moderator, the communication team, those in the audience, and those that are watching online for this opportunity to speak to the Quapaw people. Ganagay.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause. Thank you guys very much. You did an amazing job. And the next one is the main event, the chairman position. Buddy Schaap and Joseph Byrd, please come up. Again, thank you very much for having me. It's been an honor to be here for this entire evening with you. As we go through this next one, again, we'll hopefully help you make the best decisions that you can when you make your vote. Ladies and gentlemen, the candidates for chairman, Joseph Byrd and Buddy Schaap. Okay, we're going to kick off now. It's a 5-minute opening statement, and we're going to start off mainly because of the alphabet thing again. Ladies and gentlemen, Joseph Byrd.
Hawaii and good evening, and I'd like to thank our hosts, Quapaw Post, the communications team, as well as our moderator, Peter. Thank you for having us this evening and having the ability to speak in this public forum. As many of you know, my name is Joseph Byrd. I was raised in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. However, I spent many summers and many holidays here in Miami, Oklahoma with my grandmother, Ardina Moore, longtime tribal historian, as well as chair of the cultural committee. And I've been serving as chair for 23 months now, and it's been an incredible journey, an incredible ride being in this position, seeing the progress, seeing the change that has come with our business enterprises as well as our tribal government. And, you know, it's not a perfect system by any means, but we continue to progress and learn from mistakes and learn from our successes as well. And it's just an honor to be here this evening. So, gonna gay, thank you.
And Buddy Schaap, you have 5 minutes.
Sorry. I promised Guy and I didn't coordinate our dress before we came tonight. Thanks for everybody for coming. My name is Buddy Schaap. Both those watching virtually and in person. We had a beautiful day today as a nice reprieve from the heat we've been having. I took the day off of work and studied a little bit for this morning. Then went for a 3-mile run. And my workout music is a mix of Johnny Cash and Crystal Gale, and then Prince, who's my favorite singer, and then Megan Thee Stallion. So the younger generation is on TikTok right now trying to figure out who Johnny Cash and Crystal Gale is. But then the older generation is at home saying, Alexa, who's Megan Thee Stallion? I grew up in Quapaw, graduated from Quapaw High School in 1988. I married my high school sweetheart, Tressa Plyler Schaap. We have 2 kids. Thomas Wade is married and married to Mandy, and they have 2 sons. They live in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and Wade works for the Jonesboro Police Department in their Public Affairs Department. Our daughter Whitney is married to Dale. They live in Washington State, and they don't have any kids yet, but they have 2 dogs and 2 cats, and she's a police officer on the Spokane Police Department. After graduating high school, I attended and graduated from NEO, and then attended and graduated from Missouri Southern State College with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice administration. While in college, I worked at Yellow Freight in Baxter Springs. I worked there for approximately 4 years. And then in 1994, I got hired by the federal government and became a police officer for the Bureau of Indian Affairs in Arizona. After 2 years as a police officer with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, I became a criminal investigator for them and primarily dealt with drug investigations. In 2004, I applied for a special agent position with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and was hired and was stationed in Indiana for 11 years. And then in 2015, I had the opportunity to transfer to Alaska. I spent the last 6 years in Alaska as a special agent with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Over the course of my career, I worked a variety of investigations from the Endangered Species Act, the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, the Marine Mammal Protection Act, and the Lacey Act. I gave several presentations over the years to community and business groups. I also trained state officers, federal officers, and tribal officers in a variety of topics. In 2015, well, the highlight of that was in 2018, I was selected to go to Botswana, Africa, to the International Law Enforcement Academy to train wildlife officers from Mozambique, Angola, Botswana, and Brazil. I was selected again in 2020, but because of COVID, that trip was canceled. I retired and moved back home in 2021, sorry. Because I was so young, I had always intended on going back to work. So presently, I'm working as an environmental specialist for a neighboring tribe, and I oversee represent them on the Tar Creek Trustee Council and Superfund-related activities. And presently, I'm the acting environmental manager and oversee the fish hatchery, the freshwater mussel program, the water and air program, 4 full-time employees and 3 interns. Thanks.
Very good. And Buddy Schaap, we're going to continue with you. It's how do you propose to preserve tribal sovereignty and how you meet the new obligations granted to the tribe by the McGirt decision? 3 minutes.
Well, the McGirt decision and the Longhorn decision were both very important for tribes in Oklahoma. While on the surface they seem to be very beneficial to the tribe, they were of such great consequence that I wonder if this should have been brought before General Council before we proceeded in some of these avenues. With the McGirt decision and Longhorn decision will affect law enforcement, including wildlife crimes and criminal crimes such as property, crimes of violence, and minor crimes. The wheels of justice move slowly federally. After 26 years, I can attest to that. And I worry about how the backlog of some of these minor crimes are going to set before they ever see their day in court. And I hope all the positives and negatives were considered before we jumped on board fully with these. What are the long-term consequences? We've already had to hire additional marshals. We went from approximately 14 to now having 30. And after 26 years of law enforcement, I'm not anti-police, and as I mentioned, our daughter's a police officer. Police and fire are a vital function of government, but they do not create an income. If we have to hire additional police due to McGirt and Longhorn decisions, this gets into our bottom line and affects services we provide to our members. And then further, if the state decides that they're losing too much revenue, are they going to come to the Quapaw tribe and ask for us to start paying for the schools at Quapaw and Commerce in our jurisdiction, and maybe roads as well, or any of the other services the states provide? And this would further cut into our bottom line as a nation. Thank you.
Joseph Byrd, how do you propose to preserve tribal sovereignty and how will you meet the new obligations granted to the tribe by the McGirt decision? You have 3 minutes.
Thank you for that question. I remember as a 3L in law school, I was doing my internship, Washington, D.C. at the Department of Justice, Office of Tribal Justice, and that was in the summer of 2019, and it was a precursor to McGirt. It was actually called Carpenter v. Murphy, and then it called into question whether or not the Muskogee Creek Reservation had ever been disestablished. I've spent the greater part of 2 years working in collaboration with our Department of Public Safety, including our fire and EMS, our marshals, to respond to our own McGirt decision, also called Lawhorn. And I remember whenever McGirt was decided in July of 2020, it was a definite win as a student of federal Indian law, and that good feeling of reaffirmation of tribal sovereignty lasted about 24 hours, and then it was a, wow, there's a lot of work to be done. There is a lot of responsibility coming down the pike. And so as chair, I was able to have the opportunity to study this, to study how it affected the other 5 tribes in their quest for their own affirmation of their reservation, exercising their jurisdiction in the criminal sense. And what we found was that I know it was referred to earlier that it only applies to Major Crimes Act, criminal jurisdiction within Indian country, but it also seeps into environmental regulatory control. And right out of the gate, within the first couple of months of me being elected, the Governor Stitt, the governor of Oklahoma, asserted authority that they had regulatory authority within our own jurisdiction. And that's something I took a hardline stance on and said, we're gonna fight this tooth and nail. And so I think having the ability to collaborate and work with federal as well as state counterparts, the law enforcement agencies within each levels of government, that's what I've done, and that's what I will continue to do as chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we'll continue with you, Mr. Byrd. Let's talk about Downstream Casino. On the path to being debt-free, how will you manage to stay on that pathway? 3 minutes.
Well, I think it's an interesting concept, this idea of Indian gaming. And, it's been around since before the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, from the time our people played dice to betting on horse races, before it was even a regulatory scheme by the federal government and to a lesser extent the state government. And what we have been able to accomplish in terms of refinancing the debt of both Downstream and Saracen Casino properties has been nothing short of amazing. And that's taken a lot of hard work by a trusted team that we've put in place at both properties, and then our gaming properties across the board. We have 3 casinos, 4 casinos, then now we have 3 casinos if you include the annex of Saracen there in Pine Bluff. But I think in order to achieve this trajectory that we've set, and I'm talking about the trajectory of having a record year, record-breaking quarters, record-breaking months, that's a focused approach to the balance sheet. That's looking at our P&Ls on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis in order to address the concerns of our overhead, being fiscally responsible while we're in these positions. And then there's, strategic and forward thinking that has to go into that as well. And so, it's been mentioned that within a few short years, Downstream is poised to be completely debt-free. And with the team that we have in place, we're looking at those dates with much enthusiasm, with a good feeling, knowing that those not only cost savings, but cost savings and interest, but then also profitability, those revenue streams, we continue to protect those. And the whole goal is to pass those savings and pass those programs back to the tribe in terms of services to better, take better care of our people, whether that's youth, elder, all of those initiatives and all of those programs we'll need to continue to look at reinvesting our gaming revenues back into. So thank you.
Buddy Schaap, now that Downstream's on the path to being debt-free, how would you manage to stay on that road? You have 3 minutes.
I try to subscribe to what Dave Ramsey preaches about being debt-free. If you don't have any debt, then there's very little risk. Downstream on the path to being paid off in a couple of years is a great progress. I think we should continue to aggressively pay off Downstream's debt and Saracen's debt. And Downstream has to be a place where people want to come and visit and spend their money. Downstream's at 14 years old, and there's not been, to my knowledge, there's not been a major renovation since it was built. On the other hand, Indigo Sky was built a few years later, and it's my understanding they're already planning on a major room renovation. So with the savings that we're seeing from paying off the debt, we need to start making plans to reinvest in the property to keep it viable in a place where people want to come in the area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And both of you guys are, obviously paying attention to what's going on in our community and our tribe. What are your thoughts on term limits? And we'll kick off with you, Buddy Schaap. Do you believe in them? Should they be imposed? Should the length of service be lengthened from 2 years to 4 or 6?
I think I'm the one that started this bandwagon. In my original announcement, I imposed a 3-term limit on myself because I personally do believe we should have term limits. I do, however, think at least for the chairman, vice chairman, and secretary treasurer, the term should be longer, potentially 4 years, because 2 years is not a lot of time to get your ideas and vision done for the tribe, and especially if you're coming in and there's a mess to clean up. This was kind of mentioned earlier, but if you wanted to institute term limits, you could have it set up in a couple of ways. One, you could serve for 2 years and then take 2 years off, or you could serve for 3 years and then you're done for that position. Say, for example, you serve 3 terms as a business committee member, then you could serve 3 terms as the secretary treasurer or another position. But that's my view on the situation. I think I don't know if it's being addressed in the Constitution Committee that is working on the new Constitution right now, but it's something that should be, if any changes are made, it should be brought before General Council. Thank you. Joseph
Byrd, let's talk about term limits. What are your thoughts on them? Should the time being able to serve per election be increased?
So the idea of term limits is it's a colonial concept, and it's contrary to what our tribe was historically based on. Those councils and those old chiefs and that way of governing led us up to 1956. And then at that point, our tribe adopted, there's dispute on this, but it is an IRA concept, an IRA form of government, and that's what created this business committee framework for our tribal government. And since that time, it's always been 2 years, 2-year terms. And that was an idea, a concept that was imposed on us by the United States federal government at that time. And we've operated under that regime up until 2022. And 2 years ago, whenever I first took office as chair, it was talked about then, this idea of a Constitution Committee being formed. And under previous leadership, it hadn't happened up until that point. So I take great pride in being able to say that under my administration, the idea of a Constitution Committee came to fruition. It had its setbacks, the formation of it, and then just COVID happening in general. But I have faith that the Constitution Committee is talking and debating about these ideas now. A survey went out where a poll was conducted with our citizenry, and there were mixed opinions on it. And whether you're for it or against it, the bottom line is it's going to come down to a vote of the General Counsel here in this room, and maybe even in a few days, less than a week. If it comes down to that, great. I look forward to a healthy discussion over the matter, but in my own personal stance, 2 years, it's not enough time to complete a person's vision and to fully realize what you intend to do or what you set out to do while serving in this position.
Thank you very much. All right, and we're going to start off with this loaded question, Joseph Byrd, and then Buddy Schaap will have a chance to also answer it. 3 minutes. As chairman, you are expected to be the face of the Quapaw Nation while working with federal, state, and various tribal governments, and also to the general public who are not tribal members. How will you best represent the Quapaw Nation in this role? You have 3 minutes.
Thank you for that question. As mentioned earlier, for the last 23 months, I've served in this capacity as chair, and the responsibilities and the roles of this position, it doesn't stop at 5 p.m. It doesn't stop at 6 or 7 p.m. It's something that continues. And the conversation and the dialogue with the federal government, with the state government is, it never ends. It's always there. There's always issues and conflicts that arise as the head of a tribal government, and serving in this position, you have to be able to understand the positions of our people, the positions of our tribal government, and take that with you into these conversations. And while you're sitting at that table across from these counterparts, have the ability to understand what's being said, understand the expectations, but also advocating on behalf of the best interests of the Quapaw people. And I think I've done a really great job at doing that. Again, Washington, D.C. Can be daunting at times, trips there. The ability to go to Capitol Hill, the ability to walk within the halls of Department of Interior, Department of Justice, and be able to advocate on behalf of Quapaw Nation, on behalf of all Quapaw people. It's truly been an honor. I consider it a privilege, and every time I walk those halls, I'm bringing my A game. I'm doing my best in hopes that I'm making our people proud. And on the tribal business side, you know, as chair, you were the face of the enterprises too. And so being able to have the responsibility of, you know, you have 5,600 and it increases every day. You have those tribal citizens, but then you also have all of our employees. So that's close to 10,000 people every day that are counting on the chair to be the face, be the voice, and bring their A game to the best of their ability. And that's what I've done, and that's what I will continue to do as the chairman. Thank you.
Okay, Buddy Shapp, as chairman, you're expected to be the face of the Quapaw Nation while working with federal, state, and various tribal governments. How will you best represent the Quapaw Nation in this role? You have 3 minutes.
Over the course of my career, I dealt with a variety of people from various socioeconomic and levels and ethnicities, from the lowest of the low to white-collar workers and high-ranking government officials in local, state, and tribal government. I had supper at the house of the director of the International Law Enforcement Academy in Botswana. This supper was attended by an assistant U.S. attorney, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service agents, FBI agents, and the U.S. Deputy Ambassador to Botswana. Sports, current events, geopolitical issues, and the mix of African wild game we were eating were topics of discussion. I also represented the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service at various meetings, so I'm sure I can represent the people, the Quapaw people, as their chairman if elected. Thank you.
All right, now is closing statements. And you have 5 minutes, and kicking off, because he didn't get to do it first at the beginning, is Buddy Shapp.
If you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. While there's many positive things happening with the Quapaw Nation, in some ways, I don't believe we're moving forward. This comes to housing for elders and low-income housing. We've had a $2 million grant for over a year that nothing has been done with. If you're not familiar with grants, you have to have deliverables, and in my opinion, it doesn't look good if you're reporting back to the issuing agency that nothing is being done. As mentioned earlier, I've been told the meat processing plant seems to be a mess. And this wonderful facility has some issues too. As I mentioned earlier, it needs updating. I would urge the Quapaw people who aren't local, contact your family and friends who do live around Quapaw. Get their opinion of how things are. Don't rely on the Quapaw Post as your sole source of what is happening with the nation. It's not entirely the fault of the Quapaw Post employees. The BC Business Committee has access to everything the Post publishes. What I'm saying is that what is published in the Post may not have been the original intent of the Post employee writing the article. If you're relying on the Post, to quote Merle Haggard, you would think we're eating rainbow stew with a silver spoon underneath a sky of blue. The issues we face aren't insurmountable. A lot of positive things are happening within QSA. With the right leadership, we can come up with a plan, implement the plan, and have a brighter future for all Quapaws. Do your research and vote for who you think is more capable of moving us forward as a nation. Thank you.
And Joseph Byrd, you have 5 minutes as well. Go ahead.
As the chair of the Quapaw Nation, it's a humbling experience, as I alluded to earlier, to have the trust of 10,000 people, roughly, that counts on not just the chair, but all of our elected leaders to do their very best, to put their best foot forward, all for the sake of our people, O-gah-pah people. And in 2022, with the world as it is, I can understand there are probably some uneasy feelings in our tribal community right now, with inflation, with soaring gas prices, with soaring grocery prices. There's folks out there trying to, they're worried about how they're going to put food on the table. They're worried about how they're going to feed their families. And it's something that is not lost on me. Being a tribal nation, a tribal sovereign nation, we have the ability to address some of that strategically, but it takes forward thinking. It takes leadership. It takes collaboration internally on the business committee. Again, this is just one of 7 votes, but it also takes strategy and leadership and collaboration to lead downstream, to lead our gaming enterprises, to lead the tribal government side. And there are a lot of great accomplishments that we've managed to overcome these last 23 months. And it's taken a lot of hard work, but I'm truly optimistic about the direction that we are heading as a tribal nation. Our impact, our economy rests on what we're doing here in the gaming realm. And we've managed to diversify our businesses. We could do better. We can do more. And I know we will, regardless of who sits in these positions, because our general counsel pushes that. They require that of us. And so, again, it's not lost on me where we are today as a society. There's all of these issues that are on the horizon, but there's also issues here currently. Domestic violence, drug abuse, addiction, juvenile cases, delinquency, questions of jurisdiction, criminal jurisdiction, environmental regulatory jurisdiction. All of these things are interrelated, and I'm hopeful for a better future for Quapaw people, because I've seen the light. I've seen the light at the end of the tunnel when we get together with our CFOs and our number crunchers, and they're looking at their projections, and they're saying, this is the date that we could potentially be paid off. That brings me hope, and I am optimistically hopeful about the future. But there are some things that we need to do and can be doing, things that we can go after as a tribal nation to experience these reductions in cost, but be able to pass those cost savings on to each individual citizen, whether that's being able to pay their utility bills, whether that's being able to put groceries on the table.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, it's Buddy Schaap and Joseph Bird. A round of applause for these gentlemen. Thank you very much for the honor of being able to be your moderator this evening. And I know the tribal members will make the best choices for the community. Again, thank you very much, and may you have a great night.